2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net and Baltimore Positive. We're back on the Baltimore Positive Trail this week. Baltimore City Council President Brandon Scott's going to join us down at Faithley's. We're going to have a crab cake with him. He is a mayoral candidate. I'm learning how to say that word. We got a football game, though, this week, and Dani Welniak is still on the backside of the Oakland trip and the dirt out there and closing down one of my favorite coliseums, the Oakland Alameda Memorial Coliseum, where the Kansas City Chiefs did some more damage to the Oakland Raiders before they run off to Las Vegas, and now it's Lamar and Mahomes out in Kansas City. Dani, I'm going to be looking for some barbecue recommendations as well as some things I've never done in Kansas City, but I tell you what, this is a great football game. This is the best football game of the week. I think the eyes of the NFL are going to be on this, and it's fun to be a part of that on the Baltimore side. And I know you guys had a whole season of that last year.
Well, we certainly did, and right now the Chiefs are having that kind of season right now, starting 2-0 on the road and getting an opportunity to come back for the home opener after dominating two teams that we came in thinking were very good teams, the Raiders and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I know that a lot of people are really building this game up because it's a rematch of last year. That 4th and 9 conversion from Patrick Mahomes to Tyreek Hill absolutely lives in infamy. You cannot have a highlight reel of the Chiefs season last year.
Does that play have a name? Do they call it something in Kansas City?
It's the 4th and 9, yes.
See, we call it that Jedi thing. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what it was. I didn't know if there was a name for it. If it led to a championship, it probably would have had a different thing. I don't know what it is, but we saw Lamar Jackson make an incredible throw here on Sunday that has all of us now saying, but we feel like we're a year late to the party, right? Like all the Mahomes energy of first year, first time, can he go to the Super Bowl? You all went through that. We're getting that now here with Lamar with that, and it really is exciting to begin that wave, isn't it?
It is, and last year was one of those years where Kansas City wasn't quite sure what to expect with Mahomes because it was his second year. It was his first year as the starting quarterback. They had made all of these changes during the offseason, trading away a veteran like Alex Smith for something that you don't know in Patrick Mahomes, except for the fact that he was drafted 10th overall in the NFL draft. So you could have an amazing quarterback that's going to change the way that we view quarterbacks, or you could have somebody who's a bust that Kansas City has had to deal with over the past few decades. So they ended up seeing that he is a brand new kind of quarterback. He is absolutely changing the way that the NFL and that position is played. Last year, the further along we got in the season, the more that off factor made everybody believe that they could get to the Super Bowl. Now it's, okay, we know we have the league MVP. This year is Super Bowl or bust. You are one play away from being in the Super Bowl, from winning the AFC Championship game. Now, this year, you have to capitalize on that. So they changed out the entire defense in the offseason, from the coaching staff, the defensive coordinator, to a lot of the key players, and the veterans are now brand new veterans that they've brought in because this team believes they're going to the Super Bowl, and that off factor with Mahomes is still there, but it's almost an expectation now.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You say we're doing it differently in Kansas City. In Houston, they would say they're doing it differently. In Seattle, they may say, well, we started doing it like that around here a number of years ago. But all of it does sort of lead to you can only get your quarterback hit so much, right? And with Lamar Jackson seeking contact, still ran the ball 16 times, which is probably 5 to 10 more than they really want to see him run it this past week. But it's about getting hit. It's about susceptibility to that. It's about getting out of bounds, getting down, dirting the ball. And I know you played the position a little bit in your day as well. The amount of abuse that we've seen Cam Newton now take, the amount of abuse we've seen Andrew Luck take now, that these running different kind of quarterbacks really need to be, thinking a lot about longevity here, because it does feel very good here and now, but you wonder 5-10 years from now, is this sustainable to have 16 rushers from your quarterback in a week?
Right, and it's very interesting that you bring that up this week, because last week against the Raiders, the big thing with Patrick Mahomes going into that game was that he had suffered an ankle injury, an ankle sprain, the previous week against Jacksonville. So what were they going to do coming into this game against Oakland? Were they going to adjust the game plan? Were they going to let him run? Are they going to keep him inside the pocket? And what we saw at Oakland Coliseum was that they didn't adjust the game plan, but Patrick Mahomes did not want to get outside of the pocket. So he was much more of a pocket passer, more presence there, which is something that we're not used to seeing from him. There was even an instance where he kind of rolled out after he tossed the ball to LaShawn McCoy and ended up almost running into him because he thought about blocking for him and then had to second guess and realize, okay, Andy Reid's going to get mad at me if I block for him. I need to get out of the way. So it was kind of funny in how he had to evade LaShawn McCoy on that play. But it just goes back to your point that these, at least from Andy Reid's perspective, he knows how valuable his quarterback is and how big his arm is and what he can do, even if he is limited to staying inside the pocket with an ankle injury. Do not block. Do not run. If you have to run, then make sure you slide with plenty of time. During the preseason, Mahomes slid head first, trying to get in for a touchdown and was immediately told, hey, you know what, you probably shouldn't do that on the sideline. So he's learning to be a little bit more careful with his body and recognize that longevity is key now in this new era of quarterbacks.
Dani Welniak is the sports director at KCTV in Kansas City, Missouri, one of my favorite places to go. I missed the trip last year doing a crazy Tony Robbins week-long event down in Florida, but I know I had you on before, and I had some other folks from Kansas City on after the game. To see it, you know, last year to this year, the difference in your defense, the difference in our team is so palpable, right? I mean, the different energy with Lamar, the way the offense is built around him, Hollywood Brown being a part of this, Earl Thomas now running around in our secondary, no Suggs, no Flacco, no Weddle, no C.J. Mosley. We have a whole remake here, and we're trying to figure out where this model is as well. And look, we played Miami week 1. You play Arizona week 2. It feels a little training wheels. It feels like this is going to be a different kind of challenge for the Ravens going out to Kansas City this week.
Yeah, I think it really is their first true challenge based on how the first 2 weeks have kind of unfolded. And for the Chiefs, it feels like week in and week out, the competition keeps getting a little bit better. So they are going into this Ravens matchup knowing that, hey, this defense takes a step up from the Raiders defense, and this team takes a step up from what we saw against the Raiders. Now, when it comes to the defense, that's very interesting from a Chiefs fan perspective because everything and anything that fans were fearing after the first game against Jacksonville came to fruition in the first quarter when the Raiders were able to put up 10 points pretty quickly and the Chiefs were unable to score. So it was a 10-0 game after the first quarter, and receivers were getting wide open. Derek Carr was having a day. Their running backs were running all over that defense. So I think a lot of people were concerned, oh, great, here we are again. We've revamped our defense, and they're still running all over us. But the difference between last year and this year for the Chiefs defense is that Bob Sutton would not have made an adjustment going into that second quarter. Steve Spagnuolo made a massive adjustment going into that second quarter and the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and that is why the Oakland Raiders were unable to score the next 3 quarters, and Patrick Mahomes and the offense were able to take advantage, is because they made those adjustments. They were, instead of putting so much pressure on Derek Carr and recognizing that, hey, this guy gets the ball out of his hands really fast, they backed off pressure. They were able to drop back into coverages, and they were a lot more intelligent with how they were attacking and getting pressure on Carr and the running backs. So I think that's the biggest thing you see this year. Plus, of course, you get Frank Clark, who's brand new. They signed him to a big deal. Chris Jones comes back, and they're banking a lot on him on the defensive line. And then Tyrann Mathieu, who hasn't really shown up in the box score in the first 2 weeks, but he's been a silent leader, and he's a guy that offense is key on coming into the games against the Chiefs. So I think we're finally starting to see this Chiefs defense all kind of mold together. But I've told people from the beginning, these first 3-4 games for the Chiefs defense are pretty much like preseason games because the Chiefs starting defense didn't play together at all during the preseason. So right now is when they're figuring out how to work with each other, how to figure out where this talent needs to be. Spagnuolo's figuring out how to move his guys around to where they're going to be successful. So from that perspective, that's how much has changed on this defensive side of the ball for the Chiefs.
Well, certainly for the Ravens, figuring out Robinson and Kelsey, the backside of the secondary with Jimmy Smith and Tavon Young being out, and the pass rush was a little susceptible as well. Kyler Murray gave them all they could handle. I mean, it was a real football game around here, unlike sort of the laugher you had out there. By the way, I know you were down on the field running around and doing your thing out there and working. How about Derek Carr hook sliding into the grass instead of onto the dirt? I mean, real veteran move there for him, right?
Very veteran move for him. I mean, he plays there, so he understands how that Coliseum works. I just love how that it was the very last game in the NFL on dirt. And a lot of people keep asking me, well, what if the A's make the postseason? Well, no, because it doesn't matter, because the Raiders don't have another home game because they travel to London until November. So it doesn't matter how far the A's make it. I doubt they're making it to the World Series. But if you're an A's optimist, then even then, it's still the last game on dirt. So a lot of those players are on both sides of the ball are excited to not have to play on dirt again, but it's also a historical and kind of the nostalgia around it was kind of cool. Travis Kelce dove for a touchdown and ended up coming up with it, and you just had the red dirt all over his jersey and all over his arm. And it's just kind of cool. It's that old school NFL football that we now have to recognize that we are shifting a page as the Oakland Raiders go to Las Vegas, and now games will not be played on Major League Baseball fields anymore.
That page is green with dead presidents on it, too, by the way, while we shifted. Dani Welniak joining us here from Kansas City. I have such affinity for that place, and I know you were just there. I missed the Ravens game a couple of years ago there. My cat died. It's a long story, and it was after the London game.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, but I missed that game, and I've seen so many games there. One of the great days of my life, January 14th, 2001, John Gruden was on the field there, and the Ravens beat the Raiders in the AFC Championship game to go to our first Super Bowl. So, I've had incredible memories there, and I love that place, but it is such an incredible dump, and I know they're going to still play baseball there, so I don't feel like I've seen my last thing there. At some point, they'll put Zeppelin back together and burn the place down or something. I don't know, but for your football team and where Mahomes is, and I guess expectations different. A year ago to now was, hey, look at this kid. Now he feels so established. It doesn't feel too big for him. I don't think the offseason felt too big for him. I saw him running around with Lee Steinberg at the Super Bowl. He seems like just a wonderful guy and a great Kansas City guy and someone everybody can get behind. But every time I come out to Kansas City, Dani, I can tell you about our 2 Super Bowls and our parades and all that stuff. The people of Kansas City haven't had that, right? And I think with every Mahomes comes this next hope. And to your point, even with a first-round draft pick, everybody there sort of wait and see. He was so magnificent first year. You have all these veteran coaches there that John Harbaugh knows by their nicknames like Spags and, the whole Andy Reid tree. But coming out there to see this quarterback and where he is, there's a level of expectation that changes things. Hey, I've seen it happen for Lamar here. 3 weeks ago, we were all wait and see. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's just expecting Lamar to win every week.
Yeah, that's the expectation from Chiefs fans, definitely. I mean, the last time the Chiefs won a Super Bowl was back in 1969. So that memory is very distant for a lot of Chiefs fans, and a lot of Chiefs fans weren't even alive to experience that. I think the biggest thing is that Kansas City just experienced a World Series win back in 2015 when the Royals won their World Series.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We watched from here after we lost. I'm keenly aware. I took the ride out of the Arrowhead that night, watching all the. I actually felt good for everybody. I did. You know what I mean?
As you should, because they have been long-suffering fans. Both Chiefs and Royals have just not had their championship dreams come to fruition, and they have had horrible, terrible losing seasons for so long that now there's this shift. And this new generation has seen what it's like for Kansas City to actually win, to be a part of that Royals World Series parade. People want that feeling again, and they crave it. And now they feel like with Patrick Mahomes, this is a new era in Kansas City when it comes to the NFL now, too. And they want that Super Bowl parade with Patrick Mahomes lifting the MVP trophy and the Lombardi trophy, and they believe that they can put their hopes and dreams on the back of this guy, which is a lot to expect of a third-year quarterback. But he wants that, and he embraces that. And every time you talk to him, whether it's just in the locker room, whether it's off to the side, whether it's in a press conference, I mean, he will not shy away from the fact that he is the face of this organization and he wants to win a Super Bowl, and that is his only goal this year. Like, he does not care the accolades that he gets. He doesn't care the stats that he puts up. He doesn't want to put up 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards again. He wants the defense to be much improved so he doesn't have to do that, so that they can help them win a Super Bowl. He is one of the most unselfish quarterbacks and people in the NFL that I have ever spoken with, and his one goal is to bring a Super Bowl to Kansas City, and he knows that those expectations are on his shoulders, and all of these Chiefs fans who have been long-suffering for so long believe that he can do it, and he knows that he can do it. So that is one of the big things that Kansas City is just frothing at the mouth over, because they know and they believe that this is kind of their NFL savior. Patrick Mahomes is the guy who's going to bring them to the promised land.
Well, certainly the Ravens have that sort of belief in Lamar and bringing him in, but that was not thrust upon him to be the savior, right? We always had other people around here. And you hit my hot button when you start talking baseball with me and parades and World Series and all that stuff, because it really is, look, you do this for a living, I do this for a living, and you're doing, scores every night and trying to find stories around just horrible baseball teams for both of our communities. How quickly it evaporates, whether you have that parade or whether you don't. We didn't have it here. You had it there. God bless you. But it happens very, very quickly. And the 9 months between when the Chiefs get eliminated or when the Ravens get eliminated, they're no longer filled with the warm fuzzies of, opening day and baseball games and pennant races, where there was that going on here for a little while. And I know out in your part of the world, you got Missouri and Kansas and Rock Chalk, and people watch college football and do other things out there. I mean, around here, it really has felt like a vacuum, with the Orioles being so tragically horrible and really on the pathway to a couple of more horrible years, that football's all we got. And a 2-0 start, it really sort of revs up the engines in a different way. And you guys haven't played a home game. I mean, I'm really expecting something special to get out there this weekend. I really am.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt that it'll be special. I mean, this city, as supportive and amazing as it was to be a part of that Royals World Series, we've taken surveys here in Kansas City, and people would trade that World Series ring for a Super Bowl ring, because that's how football savvy and how much this town places an importance on NFL football and their Chiefs. You mentioned that, yes, you go from football season to March Madness, because you've got the Jayhawks, who feel like they are basically Kansas City's professional team, because they always are in the postseason and a lot of times end up in the Elite Eight and the Final Four. So I think that there is a little bit of, okay, we've got this next season that we can rely on and we can feel good about, whether it's baseball season or basketball season or college football season. But when it all comes down to it, this city, I mean, you can't go anywhere in Kansas City without seeing somebody in a Mahomes jersey or Chiefs shirts and hats absolutely everywhere. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. So for them to have this and to be this excited, I'm sure it's very similar to what's going on in Baltimore right now, except everyone is, I mean, you talk to anyone, someone who's not a Chiefs fan, and they'll tell you that everybody believes that Patrick Mahomes is going to take this team to a Super Bowl.
Dani Welniak can be found out on the Twitter thing at KCTV Dani. That's DANI, and doing all the sports director stuff there at TV5 and KCTV5 as well. All right, so Kansas City, I'm coming in. I know about Jack Stack. I'm gonna get some. Listen, I've been to the Negro Baseball Hall of Fame several times. I've been to the Jazz Museum. I know about the power plant thing. That's such a Baltimore sort of Cordish thing as well. I need something I've never done there that I need to do that I haven't done. And don't say the Jonas Brothers concert at the Sprint on Sunday night, because I might be sending my wife down there after the game.
No, I'll spare you that. I'll spare you the Jonas Brothers concert. Your wife and I can go to that, so you can go hang out at Q39 or Oklahoma Joe's, which has now been renamed Kansas City Joe's. It's amazing. It's based out of a gas station. So
I've been there. Yeah, Oklahoma Joe's. Yeah.
I've been good.
I've done a lot of eating. I've been to Kansas City a lot. I've done a lot of sampling. I'm just a Jack Stack guy. I've had it all. That's where I go now. That's my thing. But I'm willing to, try something new, go someplace I've never been, see a garden. I've heard the World War I museum's incredible.
That's exactly what I was going to recommend. I say you try a bunch more different kinds of barbecue places, and you hit up the World War Museum, because it is phenomenal. And especially at night, whenever they light up the monument, it it's something that you definitely need to take pictures of and you won't forget.
All right. Well, I'm looking at the National Airline History Museum as well, too, being an aviation specialist. Hey, good luck getting back from Oakland, and we will see you in Kansas City this weekend. And always appreciate it. It's going to be a great, great football game. It's been a while since we've had one of these with this sort of expectation for our football team. So we haven't been very good around here. Ask Joe Flacco about that out in Denver. But it does feel like the dawning of a new day and a new sort of little mini rivalry. Maybe we'll get 2 trips to Kansas City out of this before it's all over, huh?
Hey, I wouldn't argue against that whatsoever. The last couple meetings against Baltimore for Kansas City have been very exciting and have come down to the wire. So the more exciting football, the better, from my opinion, and it keeps me employed.
It always
the
nets
more
me
football games, the better.
It nets me good barbecue, Dani, so I appreciate that. See you soon. There she is, Dani Welniak, joining us here from KCTV5 out in Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas, both sides. You can hear us in the Buy at Toyota.com Audio Vault. We're getting out to Kansas City all week. We're getting you ready for the game. Luke's going to be in Owings Mills. We are going to be at Fadley's in Lexington Market on Thursday with Brandon Scott, our Baltimore City Council president, as well as a mayoral candidate. I'm going to learn the proper pronunciation of that word, I swear, before the week's over. I'm going to ask Brandon if he can help me with that as well, since he is the mayoral candidate. That's happening on Thursday. Baltimore Positive happening all week. Sarah Heminger from Thread, amazing conversation, as well as Stuart Berger, former Baltimore County superintendent of schools, with some unique views on education. Don Moeller and I doing that. We're bringing Ben Carden next month, John Sarbanes next month, Adrian Jones. We got all sorts of guests. It's Baltimore Positive coming at you at BaltimorePositive.com, as well as in the morning newspaper each and every day. There's now like a whole Baltimore Positive section and an Audio Vault section. It's like a repository. We're going upscale. Morning newspaper is brought to you by Planet Fitness. $5 down, $10 a month. There's a Planet Fitness right around the corner from you. Last but never least, any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford, a Security Boulevard. Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday before I go to Kansas City and eat barbecue. That'll happen from 3 until 5. It happens every Thursday. It is the SSV on WNST, all brought to you by Coons Ford, a Security Boulevard. He has promised Kansas City brisket this week. It's a barbecue kind of week. I am Nestor. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. We're getting you ready for the undefeated Baltimore Ravens. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.